faced. We also asked to speak with Brandeis University President Frederick M. Lawrence, shown here. The school refused to make anyone available. Our offer still stands. But right now, we are joined by the woman at the center of all of this. Ayaan Hirsi Ali is a fellow at the Belfer Center for the Future of Diplomacy at the Harvard Kennedy School, and my guest now. It's very good of you to be here. Thank you very much, ma'am. First, can I get your reaction to that exchange that I just had with Mr. Hooper?
Well, first of all, Megyn, I really do appreciate, I want to say kudos for calling Mr. Hooper out on all of these things. Boo is very gentle, but for the last 12 years, I have systematically been condemned by Muslim individuals, Muslim organizations, relatives. Any time that I bring up the treatment of women in Islam or the link between violence and violence justified in the name of Islam, it's Muslims who commit violence, either against women or others, who bring the Quran and the Hadith and the core texts on the table. And every time I say, hey, it's important that we talk about this. I was brought up in the religion of Islam. It is my father and my mother's morality. I understand the risk. Let's talk about it. You have people like this organization, CAIR, and Mr. Hooper, who deny this. And frankly, I don't think that Mr. Hooper speaks for Muslims. I don't think that he speaks for Muslim women, because as you see in the film Honor Diaries, and as you see in the general news, there is a lot of violence going on in Muslim countries and amongst Muslims as immigrants in Western countries. And that should be addressed. I don't think they are the right people to do it. I think we are the right people to do it.
But let me ask you this, because what he was saying and what Brandeis University used as its excuse to pull your honorary degree and boot you out of the commencement ceremony was other statements. They claim you've been too general in your criticisms of Muslims and of Islam, claiming that you've said violence is inherent in Islam, Islam is the new fascism, it's a destructive cult of death. They claim at Brandeis University those statements were a bridge too far.
I have given numerous interviews on the subject of Islam, Islam in the West, Islam and women, Islam and violence in the past 12 years. What these students have done, and which they do, I'm absolutely used to it, is they take lines from various interviews. I mean, the Reason magazine was in 2007, and then they tie all these things together to fit their own narrative. What the Muslim organizations and the student protest groups have done, that doesn't surprise me. I'm used to it. Everywhere I go, every single time I do a public speaking, I meet with some form of protest along those lines. What surprised me is the decision by Brandeis, first to say, you know, we want to give you this honor, we know what you do, and in the age of Google, all of that is out there. It's all public. And to come around and say we really didn't know some of these things, I think it's a very feeble excuse. But I don't want this to distract us from what I wanted to say during that commencement, which was to tell these students how incredibly privileged they are, and especially the female students amongst them, that they're growing up in a world that is free, where they have proper education, and that the way to get to a better world, a world of peace, is to get the ability as young people to learn how to think critically. And I know that my presence for the Muslim students in Brandeis and other universities is offensive. It's maybe, whatever they call it, insulting, sometimes they call it, it is controversial. But I thought that's exactly what universities are for. We send our kids to school so that they can be confronted with ideas that they're not comfortable with.
Do you feel that Brandeis is engaging in a double standard? Because they have given honorary degrees to some controversial figures, including Tony Kushner and others, and they, you know, people have pushed back against them for making some comments that have been perceived as anti-Jewish, and yet there was no problem. They gave them degrees and not you. Moreover, you know, Ahmadinejad went and spoke at Columbia University. I don't remember CAIR objecting to that.
I think if you insult Jews in this country, if you insult Christians in this country, if you insult Mormons, I've watched the Book of Mormon, you will get people who will write to you about their outrage. But there's always this fear that if you insult Muslims, there's going to be some kind of violent repercussion. And that may have been part of the decision to do that, but they're not doing their students any favors, and they're not doing their Muslim students any favors, because to really be assimilated into American society, to become American, is to accept the idea that you can have a robust debate. And there's no other place better to do that than on university campuses. Mm-hmm. And the decision of the Brandeis University is really regrettable. It makes me sad.
Well, Mr. Hooper and I got into it about what our First Amendment really stands for and whether it's about shutting down speech or allowing it. That part will air tomorrow night. You're a brave woman. I know you've been threatened specifically with death a number of times. It's outrageous. And we appreciate you and your courage in coming on the broadcast tonight.
Thank you, Megyn.
All the best to you.
Thank you very much.
Unbelievable. We're taking your thoughts.